from Corregidor from the Voice of Freedom.
Broadcasting from the Voice of Freedom from the Linta Tunnel in Corregidor. Bataan has fallen. The Filipino-American troops on this war-ravaged and blood-stained peninsula have laid down their arms. With heads bloody but unbound, they have yielded to the superior force and numbers of the enemy. The world will long remember the epic struggle that Filipino and American soldiers put up in the jungle fastness and along the rugged coast of Bataan. They have stood up, uncomplaining, under the constant and grueling fire of the enemy for more than 3 months. Besieged on land and blockaded by sea, cut off from all sources of help in the Philippines and in America, the intrepid fighters have done all that human endurance could bear. For what sustained them through all these months of incessant battle was a force that was more than merely physical. It was the force of an unconquerable faith, something in the heart and soul that physical hardship and adversity could not destroy. It was the thoughts of native land and all that it holds most dear, and thoughts of freedom and dignity and pride in these most priceless of all our human prerogatives. The adversary and the pride of his power and triumph will credit our troops with nothing less than the courage and fortitude that his own troops have shown in battle. Our men have fought a brave and bitterly constant struggle. All the world will testify to the most superhuman endurance with which they stood up until the last in the face of overwhelming odds. But the decision had to come. Men fighting under the banner of unshakable faith are made of something more than flesh, but they are not made of impervious steel. The flesh must yield at last. Endurance melts away, and the end of the battle must come. Bataan has fallen, but the spirit that made it stand, a beacon to all the liberty-loving peoples of the world, cannot fall.
On April 9, 1942, 75,000 troops in Bataan surrendered. General Edward King surrendered to the Japanese colonel. 75,000 troops consisting of 63,000 Filipinos and 12,000 Americans. Because the Japanese were not equipped to transport so many prisoners, they were forced to march some 60 miles away from Mariveles to San Fernando and then taken by boxcar to Camp O'Donnell and Cabanatuan. Most of the men were sick, emaciated. There were no provisions for food, shelter, or water. They were forced to march under extreme tropical heat. And worst of all, the Japanese considered surrender the most despicable act. So the prisoners were beaten, bayoneted, and sometimes decapitated. Between 10 and 15,000 Filipino soldiers died during the march alone, and less than 1,000 American troops died during the march. introduce the next number. This is a taped interview by Romer Lamano and Ashley Rulan of Guillermo Garcia. Unfortunately, Mr. Garcia is in the Philippines right now. Guillermo Garcia enlisted with the U.S. Armed Forces of the Far East Air Force and graduated from the Philippine Army Advanced Flying School in 1941. He's also my father's best friend. To this day, they continue to be good friends. When they met and they started their friendship in college at La Salle College. He went through the Bataan Death March and was incarcerated at Camp O'Donnell from April to August 1942. After his conditional release, he joined the Bolo Unit, Guerrilla 6th Military District, under the command of Colonel Enrico Jurado to do advanced reconnaissance. Can we increase the volume?
Pilot instructor.
Oh, wow.
Sa flying school. So I was but the tactical squadron of the Philippines was under. You heard about the late Colonel Guillermo.
Opo.
He was the commander of the tactical pursuit squadron. Yeah, they were the ones who went up when we were attacked by the Japanese airplanes. They were the ones who engaged the Japanese. Kami naman, we were in the flying school. We were shooting at the Japanese dahil mga flying school kami, we were not armed. So we were shooting at the rifles Bataan fell. We became prisoner of war. But already MacArthur, just no, before Bataan fell, MacArthur was able to go to Australia and escape the Japanese there. And they said that and this was because of the role of the Filipino fighters in Bataan. The Japanese could have forgotten about the Philippines first and went to direct to Australia and they could easily fight Australia because Australia was not prepared. There. It was because of they were scared of they were concerned about the Philippine troops also. So they were delayed in their push to down further because of Bataan. That was the role of Bataan, the delaying. The delay of the Japanese in going the farther south, that was the cause. Because the Japanese got really, and that got concerned about the Filipinos. And to tell you frankly, among these allies here in the Far East, the Filipinos are the only ones who really stayed, did not surrender right away to the Japanese. You know, Singapore, as India, Singapore. Singapore, just in 1 year's time, gave up. Why? They just shut off the water supply from Malaysia going to Singapore. So they were not able to fight. The Indonesians under Netherlands, under the Dutch, they were the Indonesians were really were just by the Dutch. They took advantage of the Indonesians, that they hated the Dutch, you know. When the Japanese arrived, the Indonesians instead of us, were siding with the they sided with the Japanese and captured their Dutch masters. That's how it was. It was when the Philippines who really stayed with America.
After a month, Corregidor fell on May 6, 2012. Here is the voice of General Jonathan Wainwright.
There is a limit of human endurance, and that limit has long since been passed. Without prospect of relief, I feel it is my duty to my country and to my gallant troops to end this useless effusion of blood and human sacrifice. With profound regret and continued pride in my gallant troops, I go to meet the Japanese commander. Goodbye, Mr. President.